Meantime, Pope Francis is speaking out about his new vision for the Catholic Church. In what might be the most revealing and wide-ranging interview since his election in March, Pope Francis shared his thoughts on the need for reform. Here's NBC's Ann Thompson.
In a blunt interview in the Jesuit magazine America, Pope Francis says the Church cannot be obsessed with the issues that divide it. We cannot insist only on issues related to abortion, gay marriage, and the use of contraceptive methods, he says. This is not possible. He goes on to say we have to find a new balance. Otherwise, even the moral edifice of the Church is likely to fall like a house of cards. Until now, the Pope has followed the advice often attributed to his namesake, St. Francis of Assisi. Preach often, when necessary, use words. Pope Francis is accessible, always stopping to bless the sick or kiss a child. And he is humble, accepting a used 1984 Renault to drive in Vatican City. He likes to be close to the people, and he wants his priests to do the same, urging them to act like pastors, not bureaucrats. The Pope says he sees today's church as a field hospital that needs to heal wounds. The Church, he says, sometimes has locked itself up in small things, in small-minded rules. He wants the Catholic Church to be the home of all, not a small chapel that can only hold a small group of selected people. For today, Ann Thompson, NBC News, New York.
New York's Timothy Cardinal Dolan is the president of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. Your Eminence, good morning. It's good to see you.
Good to be with you, Savannah, always.
You and I have met before on the occasion of the Pope making headlines, and we always observe that he's not changing church doctrine. But this does seem like a radical change in emphasis. Do you agree?
I'd agree. And radical is a good word. Radical comes from the Latin word for roots. He's getting back to the roots. He's going back to the gospel. He's going back to Jesus. Simplicity, a dare, a surprise, invitation, mercy, and embrace. This man, yesterday was the 6th anniversary. You and I were together, March 19th, as he began his ministry as the successor of St. Peter, Feast of St. Joseph in Rome. 6-month anniversary yesterday. This guy's batting 1,000.
We've seen him have a more welcoming tone, most famously on that ride back from Brazil when he said, "Who am I to judge homosexuals?" I think he took this a step further, not just being more accepting in tone, but in a way lodging criticism of the Church, saying that the Church had been, to use his word, obsessed with some of these social issues. Is it a fair critique? Does it ring true?
Well, we better listen to him. He's the successor of St. Peter, and I'm listening to him. He's asking for a fresh strategy. I think what he's saying is sometimes if we come across as negative, as complaining too much, we lose the folks. We got to be positive. We got to be fresh. We got to be affirming. And if we emphasize the essentials, all those other principles are going to flow from it, the practical application. I think he's onto something. He's a good teacher.
For some people, these words are enormously comforting and welcoming. For others who care deeply about these social issues, and I think you count yourself among them, is there anything alarming or upsetting or confusing about it?
I hope not. And what I welcome is that this man, Pope Francis, has given the Church such a front burner position in the life of the world that we now, we bishops, we priests, we lay leaders in the Church, we've got the opportunity now to help him clarify and present in a fresh and vigorous way the teaching of the Church. Because all of a sudden everybody's interested. All of a sudden I'm getting invited to the Today Show. All of a sudden when I go to a restaurant, people are asking me about Pope Francis and the teachings of the Church. This is an amazingly effective teachable opportunity that due to him. Hallelujah.
Do you view it as a course correction?
We always need correctives. I think so. And every pope gives us a correction. Every pope gives us a correction. And this one's doing it very effectively, and I'm glad he is.
Does it change anything you do? I mean, you are somebody who's the head of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. You've been involved in things like fighting Obamacare's policy on contraceptives. Does that change in any way what you do or where you spend your time or place your emphasis?
Yes, it does. I wouldn't exactly use those issues that you just thoughtfully observed, Savannah, but I would say, for instance, do you hear what he said to bishops the other day? He says, look, bishops, don't be in an airplane looking down at your people and looking down at the poor. Get down there with them. Now, that is good for me to hear. That's an examination of conscience. That's, I got to say to myself, Dolan, are you with your people? Are you stuck in the office all the time? Are you driving by in a car? You're supposed to be with them like he is. Those are prophetic corrections that I need to hear. He's calling me to conversion of heart like Jesus did.
I'm out of time. I know he's challenged
I'm out of breath.
Has he he surprised you? Has this Pope surprised you?
I'm surprised that I'm not surprised, because this is what we wanted. Remember I told you, Savannah, you were there. And March 19th, I'm sitting next to the Archbishop of Vienna, one of the great intellects of the church, Christoph Schönbrunn. And when the Pope is speaking, he turns to me with tears in his eyes and he says, Tim, this guy speaks like Jesus. And I said, Chris, I think that's the job description. He's doing it.
Cardinal Dolan, it's always good to have you here. Thank you so much. And now here's Matt.